welcome once again to another edition of the Finance Forum with myself, Abdu-Raof Hanslo, and in the hot seat, as with last week, Mohammed Jaffer from Mojaf Financial Services, and we speaking financial planning. In last week's episode, we spoke in depth about what a financial advisor and financial planner is, and the steps that the public or the community should take to ascertain the best possible financial advice and to receive and be rendered the best financial advice from your financial advisor and financial planner. In continuation from last week's program, we continue with the financial planning concepts as well as the financial advisory concepts. And we look further at the Financial Advisor and Intermediary Service Act, as well as various aspects of financial planning. Assalamu alaikum to you, Mohammed.
Wa alaikum salam, Abdu-Raof, to you and our viewers.
Once again, nice to have you in the hot seat, and I think this is one of the key, thus far, one of the key programs series that we're going to be looking at, and that being financial planning, because it affects all of us. Mohammed, a synopsis from last week. We spoke about a lot.
Yeah.
So if you could maybe just give us a brief overview of exactly what...
look, I think last week what we did was we touched on various aspects of financial planning. Firstly, the importance of financial planning. Why is it that each person should have a financial plan? And then we spoke about the process of how to identify a financial planner and not a salesman, and I think we covered that extensively. And then also how the process of how to select a financial planner, and we spoke about experience, qualifications, which is very important, and we used the example of when we go to a specialist, we will find out, we'll ask around, how good is that specialist? I'm not just going to go and give my medical well-being over to somebody that I don't trust, and that I don't know that if that person have the necessary skills. The same way, when we look at our financial well-being, we must make sure that the financial planner that we're going to engage has got the necessary skills and experience to give us the necessary advice. So that's very important. And I think it's very important that when we sit down with our potential financial advisor, our first meeting with a financial advisor should be an interview, and see, am I comfortable with this person or with this company? Will I get the necessary skills, the advice, and will I be treated with care, skill and due diligence? That's very important. And then you decide, this is the advisor that I want to walk the road with, because as I said last week also, financial planning is not an event, it's a process. So it's a long journey that you're going to walk. You're talking 25, 30 years and even longer. And you'll find many a times that when an advisor engages somebody, that person becomes the advisor for generations to come. But then it must be that advisor must do the necessary very important aspects of financial planning, and I think last week we touched on the different aspects of financial planning.
Yes, and Mohammed, just to continue with that, ultimately we know that financial advisory and financial planning it's a profession. And we're quite familiar that in any profession, obviously, people study many, many years to get to that point. Now, obviously, there must be some remuneration when speaking about financial advice and financial planning. So, as a financial advisor or financial planner, could you give us some clarity on how a financial advisor or financial planner basically gets remunerated? So how does your commissions or fees or charges work when sitting in front of a client?
Very, very important question, Abdu-Raof, and I think that question needs quite a bit of in-depth. It needs an in-depth answer. Firstly, the industry is moving away from the sales concept, and I'm sure, Abdu-Raof, you speak to many people in their 40s or late 50s, in their 50s, and they'll speak to you about broker the salesman and how they were conned here and how they were given wrongful advice, if you can call it advice. Back in the day, financial advising, or as it was known then, was called broker, to be a broker, you know. It was merely a sales-driven activity. The whole industry has moved away from that. In fact, many of us, including myself, we take offense being called a broker, because a broker to us is a glorified salesperson. Besides that, the financial bodies within the financial advisory industry is now moving rapidly in the direction where to become a financial planner, firstly, you will have to have a B degree. And then many companies now insist, in fact, including ours, that if you don't have if you're not a certified financial planner, which is a diploma that you do, as a postgraduate diploma that you do after your degree, most of the industry, most of the companies now insist that you must either have you must be a registered CFP, as we call them, a certified financial planner, or you need to be in the process of completing, or you're going to complete your CFP. So those are the things that's happening in the background. In fact, I heard now recently that there's one of the bodies that's pushing quite hard that for you to do a CFP, you must have a business degree. Before, if you had any degree, you could have a degree in Bachelor of Arts, yeah, or one of the other degrees, and then they would allow you to do your CFP. But I hear now that they are now pushing towards you must have a business degree to have now that in itself has got other repercussions.
If I could just come in there, Mohammed, you speak about a body that's pushing for this. Would this be the Financial Services Board, or would this be the regulatory authority from the government themselves, such as the Treasury or one of these arms?
Now it's actually the Financial Planning Institute that's pushing for that, which I don't necessarily have an issue with, but then we need to have a bridging course. Yeah. Because there are many people, and as you would know, that would maybe start studying or have completed their degree. Well, I'm one of them. I actually did my diploma in analytical chemistry, and then after a couple of years discovered that the chemistry wasn't right, and I went into the commerce field. Yeah. So you find these type of things, but if they're going to push that through, then I believe that they need to have a bridging course that the people can do. Now, coming back to your question, Abdu-Raof, having said all that, clearly financial planners and financial advisors spend many hours in doing research and attending seminars and workshops. In fact, I've got many of my friends and people that get annoyed. Many a times they would call me, and then they'll find out that we are in workshops in that, and they ask me, when do you work? So we spend many hours upskilling ourselves and getting the necessary up-to-date information on different investments. So it's very important that the general public understands that when you deal with a qualified financial planner, that this is somebody who's dedicated a chunk of his life to this industry and also upskilling themselves constantly. It's like going to see an attorney or an advocate, or go see a GP, or you go see a specialist. Now, surely in the past, the industry used to compensate the advisors by paying them a commission. Firstly, they've done away with the term commission, because I think the term commission has got a bad association with what it stands for. Now, they've moved towards paying you a fee. Now, that fee is negotiated between the advisor and the client. However, the people, if we're talking particularly in South Africa, we are not there yet where the client pays the fee over to the client, to the advisor. It is still done through the service provider. The company through which the investment is done, which from an advisor's point of view, it makes it much easier, because if we have to collect the fees, or the advisor have to collect the fees, we need to have another department to do those types. So it adds to your cost. And then from a client's perspective, it's much easier when the debit order goes off, the advisor gets paid from there. However, it's very important that the advisor discusses this with the client and make sure that the client understand, firstly, that they're going to pay a fee, how the fee is paid, and how much is paid. And not just percentages are discussed. You need to ask your advisor, okay, you say that you're going to take 1%. What is 1% of the amount that I'm going to be paying? Then you find, so there is this different layers of fees. You get the fee, what they call the upfront fee, which is, say for instance, there is a debit order that goes off of 1,000 rands, and the person takes a fee of 1%. That person will get then 10 rand from that fee, from the investment. Then there's an ongoing fee, which is an advice fee. All right. Now that can be anything up to 1%. I've even heard of people charging up to 1.5%, which I believe is exorbitant. Then there are people that charge an admin fee. What they do is, if they do charge an admin fee, and this is managed by the advisor himself, if they charge the admin fee, they then discount the fees that they charge for advice and for ongoing by an X%. The important thing is that these fees must be discussed, because it's very important that you as a client know what you're paying and how much you're paying. And I think it's important to understand, I think the saying goes that if you pay peanuts,
you get.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's very important that it's a very important discussion, but that shouldn't be the deal breaker. Because if you go to an advocate, you're going to pay a certain fee. If you go to an attorney, you're going to pay a lower fee. So it also comes with the experience and what you are going to get, the advice that you're going to get, Abdu-Raof.
I think, Mohammed, we also used to these older products, the endowment products and so on. And during those times of endowments, we didn't really realize as a community what we were paying in fees and how these fees were being paid. Until a few years back, I joined a life house and I became an advisor, a financial advisor for these types of products. And only then I realized how profitable this was at that time. For example, we would be paid upfront fees on any premiums up to 5 years. So if your fee was 1.5% to 2%, which you negotiated with the client doesn't realize that in that first year to 2 years, 2 years, that that client's just basically paying for fees, because that fee is calculated, if it's a premium, it's monthly multiplied by 12 months multiplied by 2 years.
By the number of years.
By the number of years.
Yeah.
And you would get paid up front for that fee.
Yeah. Now
Mohammed, I think before we carry on, we have to pay the bills. So hold your thoughts just there. You're watching the Finance Forum with myself, Abdu-Raof Hanslo, and my guest, Mohammed Jaffer. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.